Alright everybody, JCat here. It's been a while since I've done a video, but I thought I should do a video of my DabPress 10-ton all-in-one setup here with the Driptech. This thing is great. I've had it for quite a while now and I've been meaning to do a video, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But I've got my setup nicely set up now. It's pretty decent. I've got a spot for it in my shop, and I'm going to do a press here, maybe two, at 185 Fahrenheit. I don't know if you guys can see, but I've got my PID set up down there, and I'm using a little timer here with a magnet from Canadian Tire that's stuck to my pump. And one thing I wanted to show you guys, it's pretty cool, is these plates set at 185. One of the things I really like about the anodized finish is, check this out. Well, it doesn't really show up on the screen, but if you were seeing it, what I'm getting here is about a 184 reading. Alright guys, for parchment paper I'm either using Reynolds or I'm using this culinary paper chef parchment paper. One's non-bleached, one's bleached. Maybe the Reynolds is a little bit tougher, but they're really pretty similar. I haven't noticed too much of a difference. For size, I'm going just a little bit wider than my plates. So I've got sort of a template cut that I use to measure that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut myself a piece now. For bags, I've been using these DabPress cut to size sleeves. I actually quite like them. When I'm using, this is for when I'm doing 5 gram presses. When I'm doing 10 gram presses, I have the slightly bigger 2.5 inch wide bags. Something I'll mention about the 2.5 inch wide bags, they're 2.5 by 4.5, I think, or maybe 2.5 by 5. What I've actually been doing is I've been cutting them in half pretty much. And then I'm using both halves. So I'm using the top half similar to the sleeve, where I'm doing the present type fold on both sides. So anyway, I'll get that ready to go and then I'll show that to you. So we have 5 grams of Miracle Alien cookies here. We'll put that into the bag, as I mentioned. I flipped it inside out here, and then I'll do the present style fold on both sides. I'll do it on one side and then start to stuff it and pack it down a little bit and then fix my folds. So I'll show you that. So there we go, present style fold. Not a real good job, but you don't have to start it out. You just need enough to be able to stuff it down there, and then you can fix it after the fact. Okay, so that's what it looks like folded over before I go and fix it. So what I'd usually do, let me try to prop this phone up somewhere here so I can show you. Okay, so what I usually do here is I let it, the bottom then unfold after I'm done doing the basic pack. And I sit it into basically the center once I've got it in that cylinder shape. Then after that, you can go ahead and fold in your sides. Do your present style fold. I don't know how well this is showing up here on my little phone, but I think it's probably not bad. Give you an idea for you guys that haven't done this before. It's a little finicky, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to compress and fill the bag anyway. So you get it roughly good. See, looks like a present. It's manageable on both sides. And we're good to go. So we'll get that in the press. Okay guys, so here we go. We're going to do this press. We'll get things set up here. I don't like to put a crease in the back of my sheet. I find I like to let it sit the way it's going to sit, and that way, although it makes it sticking it in there a little bit harder, what it does do is it makes it better when you actually go and do your press, because the sheet won't end up crimpling up in the wrong spot. So So that's why I'm doing it this way. So I'll tend to magnet in place, make sure my sides are well lined up. And then once that's done, we're good to go. Just refold that bag there. And I place it in with about, I don't know, half an inch or so from the front. Pulling that little thread, nylon thread out. Okay, that should be good to go. So we're gonna tighten the valve up and start pressing. Okay, now that I've got a little bit of pressure in there, we'll start my timer, just so that we know where we're at. I like to build the pressure slowly, give it time. Okay, so away we go. I'll slowly build that pressure up to probably about 2,500 to 3,000 psi on the gauge. I'm not looking now, but I'm probably betting it's dripping by now. Oh, not quite. Okay. So we're up to about 2,500 psi now. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's dripping pretty good, so why don't we zoom in on that a little bit. You gotta remember, this is only a 5-gram press at 185. And what's interesting is probably doing Driptech, maybe half of your weight will drip off. So it does add to the flavor a little bit. I think your dripped stuff is definitely lighter in color and maybe a little bit better in flavor. We're at just over 2 minutes now. We were done pumping it up at about 1.5. We're just adding a little bit of pressure now that it's given some time to heat soak. And we're probably up to about yeah, I guess we're going to about 3,500 psi here. And we'll stop about there. Might even be higher than I need to go, to be honest. But I have found this strain and these bags seem to tolerate about that. So I tend to be somewhere between 2,500 and 3,500, depending on feel and strain and temperature. Well, to give you guys an idea here, it's really dripping quite a bit. But it doesn't look like that's going to fall off, so we're going to close this up now because it's been almost 3.5 minutes. 1.5 ramping up, about 2 minutes. Add pressure. So I pull my magnets off at this point. Grab my paper together a little bit and lift it back up. Release my pressure. And there we go. So 5-gram press of some Miracle Alien cookies, number 1. Really nice stuff. I'm betting I'll have got a 20 to 25% return there. So we'll put that in the fridge for a minute because it tends to be a pretty sticky strain, and then we'll collect it up. Okay, so we'll get everything cleaned up here now, picked up. So yeah, pretty much what we were looking at before. Using my dab tools from 710 Coils. Okay, so definitely what dripped was not half of it. That was probably an overestimate. But anyway, super nice rosin. Well, the color probably doesn't show up real well on the video, but it's like a nice light gold and amber, but you can definitely see the color difference between the two. What dripped and what didn't. So we'll measure that out and see what we've got. A little bit of bleed through that we can collect up. Guess that 3500 was probably a little higher than I needed, but this rosin doesn't leach any bad stuff really, so it doesn't really hurt. I don't know about you guys, but I like to measure my presses. I've actually been keeping a log, so that way I have a good idea of temperatures and pressures and times and everything else for different strains and what the end results are. Because depending what you're after, whether you're after a pull and snap or a butter or more of a shatter type end result, that your temperatures can have an effect. They can have an effect on yield as well as consistency and flavor. So I think this one yielded 23% last time at 190 as opposed to 185, so we'll see what the 185 does. We're down to about 21% there, so 1.05 out of 5 grams, so that's 21%. So a little bit lower than the 23% I was getting at the slightly higher temperature, but could be related to other things too. And I guess the I'll make a decision whether that couple percent is worth sacrificing if the flavor is any better or the consistency is more to my liking at 185 versus 190 or 195 that I've also pressed it at. So anyway, I just thought I'd show you that end result. It's really some nice rosin. And here's the final result. Really happy with it, as usual. This Miracle Alien Cookies is fire. Amazing terpenes. So just to get back to the DabPress unit for a few minutes, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. It's a really great unit, especially for the price. You have to remember, this thing is unbelievably economical for what it is. The setup is great. The ease of use is great. The quality is excellent. I did have some initial issues with feet alignment, so I had to adjust these bolts here in a few spots. You loosen them off on both sides, on the feet and on the top, and then that allows you to level it up. Apart from that, everything seems to be working absolutely excellent. I did actually take the unit apart too. I did take apart the controller, and one of the things about the controller, they use a lot of glue gun in there, I gotta say, to keep things together. It's totally fine to do. It just means if you need to service it later, it'll be a little bit harder. So I didn't love that aspect of it. But it's well built. Everything's well soldered and well put together. Apart from that, I did want to mention that the heating rods, I wish they were a little bit tighter. I feel that they'd have better heat transfer if they were a little bit tighter. And similarly, the thermocouples could have been a little bit tighter. They're spring mounted to try to keep the thermocouple head against the back. But my one thermocouple, the spring works well and does keep it seated at the back. The other, not so much. So the one thing I did do is, just in case that was causing an issue, I got some FDA approved thermal grease that's fine for yeah, that's edible, basically. It's not non-toxic, completely non-toxic. So I used that that thermal grease, that thermal compound, in my thermocouples to make sure that they maintained a good contact. And all that being said, it really didn't make a difference. Obviously, they were doing a good job where they were, so it was an unnecessary change. And despite it not seeming absolutely perfect, functionally it was. So I gotta say, this is by far, as far as I'm concerned, the best unit on the market for the money currently. If you're looking for something for personal rosin production that has all the bells and whistles, meaning Driptech, it's a reasonable size, it's got the gauge, really everything you want. So anyway, have a good one.